Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander Score Studio. Welcome to the show. And on today's episode, I've got an interesting concept for you, an interesting topic for you. At least I find it interesting. I hope you do as well. I mean, I guess you clicked on the video, so you probably think it's interesting. Regardless, on today's episode, I'm going to be talking about the most hated turn 1 plays in Commander. That's right, something so chaotic, something so crazy, something so game-changing. How can it happen on turn 1? And I'm not talking about, like a 7-card combo on turn 1. I'm just talking about for every one of these, except for just one of these, if that makes any sense. Every single one of these but one of these, whatever. I'm going to talk about just singular cards that essentially can just throw the entire game off right away on turn 1. So with all that said, let's jump into it. So first up, and this might be the most brutal and most hated turn 1 play, Winds of Change. My goodness, is this obnoxious. A sorcery for a single red mana. Yep, that's all it costs. Each player shuffles the cards from their hand in their library, then draws that many cards. Okay, so again, let's just assume the scenario is you are going first and you play this card, and the entire table now probably wants you to leave. They probably want you to leave the LGS. They want you to leave whatever house, just get out. Get out. Because what you just did is you said, hey, we took all that time, mulligan, get the right hands, figure out that, okay, we're all good to go. We all have okay hands, right? We've got hands that are acceptable. And then you just said, you know what? No. Nope. Everyone, including myself, we're basically just redoing this. We're just going to redraw hands, essentially. Now, you technically, since you are playing this as a card, you already played a mountain down, you're getting less back, right? You're getting like 5 random cards, essentially. Everyone's getting 7 back. Regardless, you just are re-mulliganing for everyone at the table. And they probably didn't sign up for that. I mean, maybe they did. I mean, they're playing against you, and maybe they know that you play these kinds of cards, but it's just a crazy card. It's a card that's like, oh my goodness. Again, just a player might be just stuck with no lands, essentially, and not be able to play turn after turn after turn after turn. They might not be able to play anything the entire game because they just got a random draw after they, again, mulligan into an acceptable hand, and then they've got a random draw of these cards that might just be, nothing. No lands for them. Or maybe it's all lands, they've got nothing to do. So yeah, it's absolutely crazy. A crazy card in a very, 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 very hated card on a turn 1 play, and actually even later in the game too, depending on the play group. But yeah, not all play groups hate this card, but this is a card that can definitely lose you some friends if you're not playing with the right scenario. Next up, in a smaller way, well, we've got Burning Inquiry, which is somewhat similar, not nearly as bad, but still it can have, well, almost the exact same effect. It's a sorcery for a single red mana. Each player draws 3 cards, then discards 3 cards at random. So again, at random is the key here because players can get into big trouble, including you if you're playing this card. Players can get into big trouble again on turn 1 with this. Again, assuming you're the first player, you play it, whatever, cool. All of a sudden, what happens is everyone draws 3 cards. Cool, everyone loves drawing cards. Yay! Oh, wait, no, we have to get rid of 3 cards out of our hand at random. Oh, let's say again, you just accidentally got rid of all your lands at random. All of a sudden, again, you are landless. You've got nothing to do. Or again, in the reverse, if you only had, certain cards you could play and just all lands, now you're also in trouble. Again, not nearly as bad as Winds of Change, but it has the potential to be just as bad depending on what players draw and hit and lose. So yeah, another absolutely brutal card. These kind of chaotic starts to games are just absolutely crazy, and ones that, again, are unwelcome by certain playgroups out there. Moving on, another infuriating card for a different reason, though. That is another turn 1 play, which actually I think I had it in a deck once, and I'm pretty sure I took it out. Telepathy. Yeah, this card is crazy good, and also crazy bad at the same time because you're going to become enemy number 1 the second the game starts. Enchantment for a single blue mana, your opponents play with their hands revealed. So this is not you. This is your opponents that reveal their hands. This is a one-sided, all the information's out there for everyone except for my information. Just all your information's out there, just on the table, and I get to just hide mine back and just understand what you're all up to, and you don't get to see what I'm up to, but you're all probably mad at me, and you're probably all going to target me and try to take me out. So I just made all the enemies on turn 1. Again, this is a card that, yeah, can definitely draw the ire of the table right away. Again, the second you're like, okay, island? They're already probably not going to like that. Just kidding, blue players. Island, telepathy. and then all of a sudden they have to drop their hands, and then they're going to drop their smiles. That's, yeah, I guess, to a frown. Drop. That doesn't really, that's not a phrase. Anyways, they're going to drop their smiles. We're going to start saying that now. And then they're going to be very upset with you, and they're going to take you out. So you better have some plans in how you're actually going to survive this, or you can convince them that's a good thing that they revealed their hands. But regardless, a card that can definitely draw the ire of the table can be a very hated turn 1 play. Moving on, another somewhat similar card, but this one's not that bad, right? It's still pretty bad. Revelation, Enchant World. So it's an enchantment. That's not an aura. I mean, the old cards are written in really weird ways. Regardless, it's an enchantment. It just costs a single green mana. Again, so forest this. Go. All players who have the hands revealed. Yep, that's basically it. So it's basically telepathy, but instead of it being one-sided, you also put your hand on the table. Now, will that be any less, aggravating for your opponents? Probably not. No, probably not. They're probably going to be like, okay, I still don't like that you made everyone show their hands, including you. Yeah, we can see what your hand is. We know what you're up to. You can't lie about what you're up to. But also, we're still not happy that we have to show our hands and let everyone else know what we're up to. We don't like this. We're probably still going to try to take that out. And if we can't take Revelation out, we're probably going to take you out. It's also kind of interesting because, yeah, this card, just like green having this effect, is just very, very strange. Regardless, it's a very old card. And a card that, again, you should think twice before using. But, yeah, I mean, for the right playgroup, it could be fun, obviously. And for the right deck, it could be the right call. And you need to be good at politicking, probably, to actually get this through and be like, no, it's fine. Hey, look, I'm just trying, I'm not doing anything with this deck. Don't worry about it. It's fine. I mean, you can see my hand, but it's fine. I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything. Maybe your hand at the time might not have anything in it, but later on when they see you draw your card, you're like, oh, no. Yeah, I'm doing stuff. Anyways, Revelation, Telepathy, both are very infuriating cards with the right play group. Or wrong play group, whatever it is. Yeah, having to show your hand right away to start the game off is not how many players want to start the game off. Moving on, Burgeoning. Yes, a card that I have definitely played against and has been dropped on turn 1, and it is just, oh no. All the opponents to this card are like, oh no, because you have no choice as to how this is going to go. It's an enchantment for a single green mana. Whenever an opponent plays a land, you may choose a land card from your hand and put it into play. This is basically, especially if you get it down turn 1, hey, you just spent 1 mana to probably ramp 3 lands. Absolutely crazy. So again, when it comes back around to that person, yeah, they're going to drop their 5th land most likely and then play something massive, probably their commander, and they probably are going to get so far ahead that they will win. Again, this does require, I guess, that player to have other, a good amount of lands in their hand, but still the right amount of lands in their hand, they have other things as well, or a commander can really work well with this. Regardless, this is just a stampede on the first turn. I guess, with everyone's first turn. Again, you play this, your opponents are not going to skip their land drop because it's turn 0, essentially, or turn 1. You got to play your land. You've got to start the game off. And, yeah, I guess if you didn't play lands, you'd still lose because that one player would just keep playing. So there you go. There's, like, no way around this. It's pretty, you could remove it, I guess. That's the way around all these things, right? Counterspells removal. But still, again, there's like no way around basically a turn 1 burgeoning not turning into like probably 3, 4, 5 lands into play by the time that player's turn comes back around and they play their next land. So absolutely crazy, absolutely absurd start to the game. Burgeoning is definitely a card that many players out there hate seeing, especially on turn 1. In a somewhat similar way, Mana Bond. For the right deck out there, Mana Bond. This is not for every deck out there, but yeah, this can be quite brutal as well. An enchantment for, again, just a green mana. Apparently, these, like, green mana, 1 mana green enchantments are pretty crazy. Yeah, here we go. During your discard phase, you may put all land cards from your hand to play. If you do, discard the rest of your hand. Yeah, for some players, that is worth it. Again, if you've got maybe a commander that costs, say, 6, and your commander is like a game-ending commander that if you get it out, you're going to get a lot of value right away, and you've got an absurd amount of lands in your hand. I don't know how you built this deck that you can ensure that you get Mana Bond, but yeah, you play this turn 1, all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, discard phase. Yeah, I'm gonna discard my entire hand by just playing all my lands, essentially. I'm just gonna play my lands, and then I've got no cards in my hand, essentially. So yeah, drop all your lands, play your commander most likely, probably win from there because you're so far ahead of your opponents. Again, hoping you're drawing into more gas, but regardless, yeah, a risky play, but one that can just kind of end the game a bit sooner than players are expecting. So definitely a card that can draw the ire of the table. And next up, guess what? Yet another 1 mana enchantment in green. An enchantment for a single green mana, Root Maze. All artifacts and lands come to play tapped. Okay, again, this is just a giant eye roll for the entire table the second this comes down. Again, if you're the first player, you're like, okay, cool, my land comes into play untapped because I played a forest. Yay, good for me. And everyone's like, yeah, that's what happens with lands, right? And then you're like, okay, not anymore. Tap my forest, play root maze. All of a sudden, nope, no one's happy with you. Everyone's lands are coming to play tapped. If anyone's ramping, again, if anyone's not in green and they're ramping, with mana rocks or whatnot, all those are coming to play tapped as well. So we're slowing everything down to a crawl. Basically, we're playing a turn behind. Yeah, it's a very, 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 very ire-inducing card. Ire-inducing? Yeah. And not invigorating. I keep all these words. Irritating. How do I miss irritating? It's an irritating card to see right away on turn one when you're like, oh gosh, this is going to be a long game. Because that player who's playing this Pariah has other cards to slow things down as well. Definitely a card that I do not want to see on the table on turn one. Next up, a card for a completely different reason because it's, yeah, I mean, it kind of just breaks, it doesn't break Magic, but I mean, it was built for a different format, right? So Serra Ascendant, a 1/1 human monk for a single white mana with lifelink. That's fine, that's not bad. Oh wait, here we go. As long as you got 30 more life, it gets +5/+5 and that's flying. Okay, so it is a 6/6 flyer with lifelink on turn one. That's just what it is. And you're just going to have to hope that you're not the player that this just starts swinging at again and again and again, because you're going to be in trouble. So yeah, this again is a different kind of axis of all those other ones. This isn't the exact same, reasons why you might just like not want to see that card on turn one, but it's still a card that you're like, oh, that's frightening. That's scary. They just happen to get this. Really? They just happen to get their Serra Ascendant in their opening hand? Are you kidding me? Really? Really? And finally, well, I mean, kind of in a way, yeah, Sol Ring. Sol Ring is a card that players don't like seeing on turn one or someone else's control because it gets them off to a really good start. But I do kind of have a caveat to this because it's more like, it's not just playing Sol Ring on turn one. It's more like, oh yeah, the trope, right? Sol Ring, tap, other 2-mana mana rock, like an Arcane Signet, essentially. So again, kind of like versioning. This is just like, oh, that player just is that absurd amount of mana already. This player's already at basically 4 mana turn one. Turn two, come back around, play a land. Oh, they're at 5 mana. Yeah, they probably win the game getting that kind of a start if we can't slow them down right here and now. Because again, they're on 5 mana. Again, assuming that player went first out of everyone. They're on 5 mana. Everyone else is still on 1 mana. And yeah, they're probably going to win from there. So yeah, that's yet another start that players really don't like to see. And yeah, just that I guess for all these, again, I kept it to 1 card. And this one's just kind of like a combination. But still, like, Sol Ring's like a little bit of like iffy. Like on, again, like players don't like to see other players play on turn one. And they're not like hating the card, but it's just like, oh, they got their Sol Ring. Why didn't I get mine? But and then yeah, if they get the Sol Ring into Arcane Signet, even worse. So there you go. But now as this episode is coming to a close, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on these cards. Are these cards hated by you as well to see on turn one? Are there other cards that I didn't bring up that you think I should have brought up that you hate to see on turn one? So you let me know in the comments below if you are interested in upsetting your play group and these cards. Make sure you check out that card list link in the description below. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. And don't get Winds of Change. Don't get Winds of Change. Please don't get Winds of Change. Please don't do it. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.